Now, this is going to be a short movie about how to use the labale-it component or study that comes with Trade29. The first thing that I have is I have an ES chart open. This one happens to be a 60-minute chart, but you can use pretty much any chart that you want. I'm going to demonstrate this on one of the existing CR chart studies, so I'll just use the swing high and swing low study. Let's go into the settings and make it so it has a little bit more length, and just change the colors here so we can see it. And voila, this is the swing high, swing low. You can see the arrows. The blue arrows are the swing highs, by the way, and this is the swing low subgraph. So you can see that here. If I open this, you can see that we have one subgraph is of swing high values, and the other one is the swing low values. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the labale-it study to the chart. So I go to Add Custom Studies, and underneath the Trade29 node, I will find labale-it, which is this one, and I will add it. And now we're going to configure the settings. So the first setting that needs to be configured is the values subgraph. This is basically a reference to the subgraph of values that we want to display. So I'm going to display the swing high, swing low studies, swing high values. Okay, so these are the numbers that I'm going to see on the chart. And I'm going to place them, let's just place them at the high of the bar for now. Okay, so I'm telling labale-it now that we're going to be displaying the swing high values, and we're going to be placing them at the high of the bar. I could have chosen here to put it at the low. I could even choose it to put it based on the swing high, swing low values, okay, which is kind of pretty close to the high. But for this example, let's just put it back to here, and we'll see it being displayed on the high. Last comment is I can change the displacement, and I'll show that in a bit, and I can control the colors. I'll show that in a bit as well. So I'm just going to click OK, OK, and there you can see, okay, we have basically it prints out the labels for us, or the numbers. These are the actual values of the swing highs. And now I'll tweak it a bit so it looks a bit better and more readable. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change the color, and I want to move it up a bit so it's not behind the arrow. I want to see it like somewhere up here somewhere. And I'm also going to change the format. You see that this is a format of not a decimal format, but a fractional format. So I'm going to make all those three changes. So I go into labale-it, and the first thing I'll do is I'll work on the displacement. Okay, so a displacement I can present it as either percent or points, and this is just either the number of points higher than where it is now, or a percentage of where it is now to go higher. So I'll work with the percent. This is good enough for that. And let's start out with trying 3%. This is kind of a trial and error type of thing. And I pressed apply, and it really went off the screen. That's too much, right? So let's go back in and change it from 3% to maybe 1.5%. Maybe that's enough. Yep, that looks better. Okay, if we slide it up, bring this down, and this looks a little bit nicer. The next thing I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to change the format. Okay, so currently it's inherited. I'm going to change the format just to be a 0.01. And I'm going to change the color as well. Currently it's being painted green, so let's change it to blue, just so we can see it more clearly on my charts, which have a white background. And voila, we changed the format, we brought it up a little bit higher, and we also changed the color. Now, the colors are chosen based on the values. For positive values, or basically, let me step back again. The colors are chosen based on the auto coloring. So if I have auto coloring selected on one of these, that will affect the colors of the text itself. So if I chose, for instance, based on plus minus, and there was a positive value, it would be painting it blue. If it was a negative value, it would be painting it red. In this case, they're all positive values, so I don't really see that. but that's the way it works. Next thing that we're going to talk about is, let's say you can see that label-it will like print out the values of just one subgraph. So it's printing out the values of the swing high points along this whole line, right? This whole subgraph. What if I wanted to also print the swing low? We wanted to see both of these values. So that's possible. The only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add another instance. And you can add as many instances of label-it as you want. So I'll add another one. Here's our second one coming up. Let's move it down. And I'm going to configure this one as well. This time, instead of setting it to the swing high, swing low, high, I want to see the low values. And I'll place this one at the subgraph. Well, I'll take it out from the main graph low, below here. Obviously, we already know that it's going to appear behind these arrows. So let's change the displacement. And this time, I'm going to put a negative -1% below. Okay, so it'll display it below there. And that's for that. And now it's printing it down here. Forgot to change the color and the format. Let's change the format again to the same we had before. And the subgraphs, change the color to pink. Okay, so now we have that for us. The last thing we'll show is how to use label-it to present in another region, and also another little thing that can be done with it. So I'm just going to add to this another study. Let's add to this, for instance, the ATR. So let's go to average true range, add the ATR, click settings, change it to a color that's more viewable on a white background. Okay, and we have ATR. And I'm going to put label-it, I'm going to show that I can kind of have label-it on a different region, and also show that I can control the number of times that it displays. So I'm going to add another instance. It's label-it ID 5. It's the third time I've added this. And I'm going to configure it. So the values I want to display this time are the average true range values. Right? So I set it here to average true range, ATR. It's the only value possible. And I'm going to change the value format. I'm also going to tell it to place it at that average true range value, which means it's going to place it along this line here, right? The ATR line. And I'm going to tell it to, let's leave it for now here. Let's no displacement. Just have it just like it is right now. And let's just change the colors so we can see it. Let's paint it this time in orange. And the last thing I need to do really is just to tell it that we want to place it on region 2, not on region 1, which is the main price chart. I'm going to click OK and click Apply. And as you can see, it printed out the numbers along the line, right? We have now all the ATR numbers for each bar. Although it's kind of hard to read, it does actually do it. Let's say that I wanted just to have just the last value, right? So I can just clearly see on the chart the last visible value. So what I do is I go into label-it, and I will tell it to just present just this one last value. Okay, instead of display where it said -1, it switched it to 1. -1 basically tells label-it to print all the values across the subgraph. If you have it a non-zero value, then it will print that many values from the right end of the chart going to the left side. So let's see how that works. Wait a second. There we go. Thought I lost it, but here it is. This is currently the last value of the ATR. If I were to put here 2, it will print out the last 2 values, and so on. This is good in terms of sometimes just the presentation. If you have like these numbers here and you just want to see the last one without cluttering up the rest of your chart. And sometimes also in terms of just optimization, right? In terms of performance. If you have a very long chart with many bars and you print all these labels off, sometimes it starts to get kind of hard on the resources of the computer. So this is one way to control that, and just print like the last 50 or 100 or so, which is usually doesn't kill the machine. Okay, that's been all, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.